The coffee shop test. The rain had been falling since morning, turning the streets of Seattle into rivers of gray. Emma Chen stood outside the small coffee shop on Pike Street, watching the water drip from her worn jacket onto the sidewalk. She looked down at herself and almost laughed. Her old jeans had a hole in the knee. Her sneakers were scuffed and faded. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, still damp from the rain. She looked nothing like the polished professional she usually was. But that was exactly the point. Emma had been on 12 blind dates in the past year. 12 carefully arranged meetings, set up by well-meaning friends who thought she needed to find someone. And every single time, it had been the same story. The men would smile at her designer dress, compliment her expensive watch, and spend the entire evening talking about their jobs, their cars, their investments. Not once had anyone asked her what she liked to read. Not once had anyone wanted to know what made her laugh. So tonight, Emma had made a decision. She would show up as herself. Not as the successful marketing director with the corner office. Not as the woman who wore pearls and carried a leather briefcase. Just Emma, the girl who loved rainy days in old bookstores. The girl who would rather spend an evening with a good novel than at a fancy restaurant. If this date went badly, at least she would know the truth early. She pushed open the door to the coffee shop. The warmth hit her immediately, along with the rich smell of fresh coffee and cinnamon. The place was cozy and small, with mismatched furniture and soft jazz playing in the background. String lights hung from the ceiling, casting a gentle glow over everything. Emma scanned the room, looking for her date. Her friend Sarah had described him as tall, with dark hair. That was all Emma knew. She spotted him almost immediately, sitting at a corner table by the window. He was handsome, there was no denying that. Strong features, broad shoulders, wearing a simple gray sweater that looked expensive even from across the room. But what caught Emma's attention was the book in his hands. He was reading, completely absorbed, his finger tracing the lines as he turned each page. Emma took a deep breath and walked over. "Excuse me," she said softly. "Are you Michael?" He looked up, and Emma felt her heart skip. His eyes were warm and brown, with laugh lines at the corners. He smiled, and it was genuine, reaching all the way to those eyes. "Emma," he asked, standing up quickly. He looked at her rain-soaked jacket and worn clothes, and his smile didn't falter for even a second. "Please, sit down. Can I get you something hot to drink? You look like you got caught in the rain." Emma sat, surprised by his easy manner. "Coffee would be great, thank you." Michael walked to the counter, and Emma watched him go. He moved with quiet confidence, greeting the barista by name, laughing at something she said. When he came back, he carried 2 steaming mugs and a plate of cookies. "I hope you like chocolate chip," he said, setting everything down. "They make them fresh here every afternoon. Best in the city." Emma wrapped her cold hands around the warm mug. "You come here often?" "Every Sunday morning," Michael said, settling back into his chair. "It's my routine. Coffee, a good book, and a few hours of peace before the week starts." He gestured to the book on the table. "Do you read much?" Emma felt something loosen in her chest. "All the time." "What are you reading?" For the next 20 minutes, they talked about books. Old favorites and new discoveries. The stories that had made them cry and the ones that had made them think. Michael leaned forward as he talked, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. He listened when Emma spoke, really listened, asking questions and remembering details. The rain continued outside, but inside the coffee shop, time seemed to slow down. "So," Emma said finally, taking a sip of her coffee. "Sarah told me you work in business. What do you do?" Michael's expression shifted slightly. Something cautious entered his eyes. "I run a company," he said carefully. "Technology sector. It keeps me busy." "Do you like it?" The question seemed to surprise him. "Most people ask how much money the company makes," he said. "Or what our stock price is." "I don't care about that," Emma said honestly. "I want to know if you're happy." Michael was quiet for a moment, studying her face. Then he smiled again, softer this time. "Yes," he said, "I like it. I like building something that helps people. I like working with a good team. But I also like being here, in this coffee shop, where nobody knows who I am." Emma understood. She understood completely. They talked for another hour. The conversation flowed easily, moving from books to music to travel. Michael told her about his grandmother, who had taught him to cook. Emma told him about her father, who had shown her how to fix cars. They laughed over shared memories of terrible movies and debated the best pizza toppings. Finally, as the evening grew darker outside, Michael looked at his watch. "I should probably let you go," he said, though he sounded reluctant. "But I really enjoyed this, Emma. I'd love to see you again. Maybe dinner next time." Emma hesitated. This was the moment she had been dreading. The moment when she would have to admit the truth. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. "I didn't dress like this by accident. I wanted to see how you would react. I wanted to know if you would treat me differently." Michael tilted his head, waiting. "I usually dress better," Emma continued. "A lot better. I have a good job. I make good money, but every date I've been on, that's all anyone cared about. What I wore, what I did for a living, how successful I was." She looked down at her hands. "I'm tired of people who only see the surface." When she looked up, Michael was smiling. Not a surprised smile or an amused smile. A knowing smile. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. "My full name is Michael Chen. I'm the CEO of Chen Technologies. You've probably heard of us." Emma's eyes widened. Chen Technologies was one of the biggest tech companies in the country. She saw their name in the news almost every week. "I do the same thing you do," Michael continued gently. "I come to this coffee shop because nobody here knows who I am. I wear old sweaters and read books and pretend I'm just a regular person. Because that's what I want to be, at least sometimes." He reached across the table and touched her hand. "Do you know what I saw when you walked in tonight?" Emma shook her head. "I saw someone who got caught in the rain and didn't care. I saw someone who chose comfort over appearance. I saw someone real." His thumb brushed across her knuckles. "I saw someone exactly like me." Emma felt tears prick her eyes. "So we both showed up in disguise." "Maybe," Michael said, "or maybe we both showed up as ourselves for the first time in a long time." They sat in silence for a moment, hands still touching across the table. Outside, the rain had finally stopped, leaving the streets clean and shining under the streetlights. "So," Emma said finally, a smile tugging at her lips. "About that dinner, should I wear my fancy dress or my comfortable jeans?" Michael laughed, a warm sound that filled the quiet space between them. "Wear whatever makes you happy," he said. "As long as you show up as yourself. That's all I want." Emma squeezed his hand. "Deal." They stood up together, reluctant to end the evening. As they walked to the door, Michael held her rain-soaked jacket while she slipped it on. The gesture was simple and kind. Outside, the city sparkled under the clear night sky. The storm had passed, leaving everything fresh and new. "Can I walk you to your car?" Michael asked. "I'd like that," Emma said. They walked slowly through the wet streets, talking and laughing, taking their time. Neither of them was in a hurry. They had both spent so long looking for something real, and now that they had found it, they wanted to savor every moment. When they finally reached Emma's car, Michael took both her hands in his. "Thank you," he said softly. "For being brave enough to show up as yourself. For making me remember why I fell in love with rainy days and quiet coffee shops in the first place." Emma smiled up at him. "Thank you for seeing me. The real me." "Same time next week?" Michael asked. "There's a bookstore a few blocks from here that I think you'd love." "It's a date," Emma said. She drove home through the clean streets, her heart lighter than it had been in months. Tomorrow, she would go back to being the polished professional. She would wear her nice clothes and lead her meetings and make her decisions. But tonight, she had been just Emma. And that had been enough. More than enough. Sometimes, the best way to find something real is to stop pretending. To show up exactly as you are and trust that the right person will see you for who you really are. Emma had taken that chance. And in a quiet coffee shop on a rainy Seattle evening, she had found someone who understood. Someone who was looking for the same thing she was.